Movie news,
Yes!
rumors, and rumblings.
That's awesome!
Let the filibustering begin.
All right, time to round up some movie news, rumors, rumblings. Here I'm at about movies. We got Star Wars, we got Bond, we got weekly recommends, big show this week. And it's going to be big shows for weeks to come, so make sure you subscribe and join us on the VIP feed this week for Brian's pick, which is Memphis Belle from 1990. Heavy on the World War II talk in the VIP this week.
We're gonna
for all the dads out there.
Can't wait.
Subscribe. It's going to be a good time. And link is in the description. But we got, I guess, semi-breaking news. We're going to do a movie this week. But, some things have kind of bubbled up here in the past few days. Need to talk about it. First of which is, I guess, the most recent news, which is Kathy Kennedy leaving her role at Lucasfilm, which heads up not only Star Wars, but, Lucasfilm does a lot of other things too, including Indiana Jones and documentaries, and it's a pretty big gig. She's out. So I throw it first for reaction to our biggest Star Wars fan amongst us, Brian Gill. What did you think when you saw this?
I think Kathleen Kennedy. Has kind of been a scapegoat for the worst people on the internet for the last 10 years or so. I also think there's been some misses along with the hits. I think as much as anything in like the number of movies that they've put into production, announced, and then canceled, or like, never mind, we couldn't figure that one out. I think some of that falls at her feet. I think Kathleen Kennedy has done has had a great career and has done an admirable job for the majority of her time at Lucasfilm. If you go back and you look at like her legacy as a producer and everything that she's been involved with, it's a lot of great stuff. It's unfortunate when your misses also coincide with, again, the worst people on the internet with the things that they want to talk about. And so, I don't think you can say she's had a spotless record, but I think overall she's done a very good job, both with Lucas and then with Disney. And, it was probably time for her to move on to something different, I would say.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this was pre-planned, if she was always planning on leaving this year, or if something didn't go right this past year that they were betting big on, something like that. Maybe Acolyte. Skeleton Crew was well done, but I don't think was the hit that they expected it to be from like a cultural standpoint. And yeah, maybe, I've got my list of things I wish she would have done different. First among those is the whole Josh Trank
you wanted to see that movie? Yeah.
When I think of her time at Lucasfilm, I picture her on stage talking about Josh Trank at Star Wars Celebration. Like, that's the mental image that I have. I don't know if that's a great one, but let's face it. She was put in, honestly, an impossible position. Not impossible. One of the hardest jobs probably to step into. Mm-hmm. I'm taking over. First of all, we're rebooting Star Wars, and I'm taking it over and overseeing it from now on. From George Lucas, the man who created it from his own mind, So, I can't imagine the stress she went through, but that's among the hardest jobs I can think of in Hollywood. Deciding what to do with that going forward, just because it is such a cash cow when it works. And everybody is just in love with it. And when it doesn't, like you said, Brian, it's the worst cesspool of the internet.
Right.
With the discourse. And so I can't imagine the stress, but also, man, she had some big wins. Star Wars The Force Awakens was a massive movie. Yeah. It was, I think, up until maybe Avatar, the highest grossing movie in America ever. So she's got that for her.
I think Titanic passed it again too with one of those weird releases.
He's got to keep re-releasing Titanic to get that trophy. Credit to him. The petty. I like petty level when you're
Yeah,
at
me too.
that level. Still being that petty is honestly admirable. Richard, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot with the Bond news over at MGM Amazon, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, but kind of what their strategy is going to be, because this property was handed over to Kathleen Kennedy, and it seems to me, though I think she has a record of being a pretty historically sound producer, it seemed to me, again, not being in the rooms or anything, but from the outside, like she was producing in a 1995 world. Like we kind of give DC, it's always a happy medium. We give DCWB a lot of grief because they're planning cinematic universes before they even plan a good movie. And it seems Kathleen Kennedy was like, put everything into making Force Awakens, and with not really her job of being the kind of strategic narrative overlay, or at least the consolidator of ideas, like Feige at Marvel. It was, more in that kind of 90s thing. It's like we make a movie and then we write ourselves into a corner and figure out how to make the next movie, and we write ourselves into a corner and then we figure out, that's just not, I don't think should have been her job. It was kind of a miss in terms of what she was able to at least momentum wise carry over, as well as, what that role was. So I've been thinking about that a lot with Bond, with bringing it back. Amazon MGM, what are they going to do? What's their strategy going to be? Are they going to say, hey, Christopher Nolan, here's a whole bunch of money, make a cool Bond movie, and we'll figure out what's next after that? Because obviously Christopher Nolan, I don't even know if he'd do one Bond movie for them, but he definitely won't do 5, right? So, or do you do that? Or do you go find like kind of a Feige type producer and try to have this, hey, we're not going to do the broccoli thing anymore of a Bond movie every 6 years. They're going to be every 2 years. There's going to be shows in between. We need someone to kind of oversee this overall property. And God knows it'll probably be the Kingsman guy. And we'll just have to kill ourselves. But yeah, so anyway, I've been thinking about that. I just think she just wasn't so much operating in a way like, we don't like the cinematic universing off the bat, but if you already have a universe that's built with the original Star Wars films to an extent, all the supplementary content around it. So all you kind of have to do is carry that forward. And it just didn't seem like she believed in that philosophically, which was a miss, and it was just not the right fit for this type of property. Like, I don't know. Again, she's been a part of a lot of cool stuff, made a lot of cool stuff. And I think we were all excited and got the hire in the moment. But it proved to be, I think, not a good fit, and now can't even get stuff made. Like, they haven't made a Star Wars movie in 5 years,
right?
6 years, something like that. That's crazy look, people are kind of laughing at them like this was a figure. I mean, I don't know. They bought that thing for $4 billion. Like, it's gonna, on the whole, be a good investment for Disney, but I think
I'm sure they've already made money on it. When it comes
to the expenses of things too. I mean, $4 billion for the property, probably another couple billion in production cost and building theme parks and all that. So maybe not yet, but they will. But I think they expected that Pixar or Marvel type turnaround, which they, as of yet, haven't gotten. And then you wonder, did they soil it a bit, maybe, and at least theatrically, where it may be harder to do. I mean, I think their success has been in television. So what do they do theatrically to kind of reignite that excitement again? We shall see.
I think the approach was the right approach from the outset. Like, let's get back to tactile filmmaking, real sets, real props, all that kind of stuff, I think was the right approach. You're right. Probably not a philosophical fit when it comes to story and the direction of the universe. They probably should have. I mean, they definitely should have written the trilogy to start and said,
that's the biggest
This
failing.
is the trilogy we're going to make.
Right.
Here's the first movie.
At least have it plotted out. I mean,
not having
the
it
biggest
as one cohesive thing from day one, basically, is the biggest mistake that they would probably go back and redo.
Totally. And hiring two directors who do not agree on what they were trying to do with this trilogy. It's that to me is the biggest failing. I love all three of those movies. Force Awakens is my favorite Star Wars movie. I'm OG Star Wars guy, and I even Rise, whatever. We don't have to rehash it. I think Rise of Skywalker's got a lot of enough stuff in it that I like it, even in spite of some of its lesser moments. The biggest problem is that you didn't have even like like a vague outline of the A to Z from the first movie through the third movie, and that you hired two directors who do not agree on their what they see for this franchise and for this world and stuff like that. It's like Last Jedi in so many ways like tries to like almost like write against Force Awakens, and then Rise of Skywalker comes back and like writes against The Last Jedi, and that's your problem. And to your point, Richard, like that probably does fall at her feet, and kind of shows like this was, I think it was a fine hire. It's not that, it's just was not the right person to clearly didn't have a great interest, I think, in structuring a cinematic universe the way Kevin Feige did.
They probably should have learned from Lucas himself, who wrote the entire philosophy of Star Wars. I mean, like the first Star Wars movie was literally the first chapter or whatever of his overall story. And it felt that way, right? Maybe they should have just taken the George Lucas approach, which begs the question, who is going to step into the chair? Who do you think it will be? Obviously, the names floated out there are the obvious ones, being Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, the people over on the TV side of things at this point. I think that would make sense. Honestly, I don't think the timing could be better for a Kevin Feige move at this point, right over there. I honestly don't know if that's the best move, though. I don't know if Kevin Feige's trending in the right direction necessarily, or if I want them to cinematic universe my Star Wars again. I think part of the problem was the approach to Disney Plus and watering down Star Wars overall as a way basically just to drive subs to Disney Plus. Like that's the only reason any of that stuff was made is to get people to sign up for Disney Plus. It added really honestly nothing to the overall picture when it comes to the movie side of things yet. I mean, we've got, I guess, a Mandalorian movie coming here pretty soon. But I mean, you could watch all the movies and not have seen one Disney Plus show and be totally fine and understand basically where things are. So yeah, be, I guess, more decisive with how they use the IP and get somebody in there that's maybe not past their prime would be my my choice. But Brian, what's a name that comes to mind for you?
I mean, I think you mentioned all the names that we know. I did not know Kevin Feige's name before he took over running Marvel, and so maybe that's the move. Of the names we know, I think Favreau could probably do a good job of it. I really like Dave Filoni. I like his I like his involvement. I'm not sure that I think he's somebody who should be running essentially running a studio like that. I would have some questions about that. I mean, Feige would be really interesting because he's shown, number one, he's shown that he's like the master of doing what I think they probably want to do, at least from a corporate structure side of things. But also, we literally last week talked about what a screw up, his most recent movie is, and it's been trending that direction for a while. And so it would really put it to the question of like, is he cooked? Is he done? Does he make movies for an era that ended in 2019, or is it that he's burnt out and tired and needs a new challenge? And, we know he loves Star Wars because would that be, are you getting the Kevin Feige that created the MCU, or are you getting the Kevin Feige that signed off on Captain America Brave New World? I think that's the big question and he definitely can't do both.
It feels to me more like he's in Brave New World mode right now. So I don't know if it would be the best, but
you got to know for sure that you're getting
Yeah.
this guy who's going to come in and recreate the brand or rejuvenate everything or whatever else, and if he can't, if his recent track record suggests that guy doesn't exist anymore, then you can't move that way, even if you're rightfully loyal to a guy who's made your company billions and billions of dollars.
So what do you think from a PR standpoint they should do here? Because there's going to be opinions flying whenever they do announce who it is. Does that make you think they lean more towards a name that's a little maybe unqualified or makes us a little nervous?
Favreau seems like the one that the fans can get behind the most, probably. Yeah, it's like Filoni has a lot of detractors. Look, what I would like for Disney to do is tell the internet to STFU and just like,
right, but that's not gonna happen.
But it's not gonna happen. And like, I think we've already seen like Iger's like coming off of some of the stuff that they pushed, right or wrong, in the previous era. You're not gonna win the internet, and
these are the people that are going to see the movie day one. Like, I think this is an important aspect of all this. Like, you want to make these people, at least get these people excited, right?
I agree with you. I also think that this is, look, I've said many times, I love Star Wars. When I was 2, I could like quote the entirety of the first 30 minutes of A New Hope. I mean, like, Star Wars is like in my blood, and I've said this many times on the air. I hate even mentioning Star Wars anymore because you never know if the person that you're talking to is somebody who doesn't like The Last Jedi because they, like what we just said, like it felt like it didn't have a good A to Z in the sequels and blah blah blah, or if they don't like The Last Jedi because there's an Asian woman in the movie, and it's like, it's such a hostile, toxic fan base. I don't think you can make a movie or a series of movies or whatever, or a hire in this instance, with the idea of we're gonna make these freaking dorks on Reddit happy. It's just,
that's how we do this pod, though.
So it's I don't know. Make the wise decision. Do the thing. Whoever is the best person for the job. I'm not done. I understand what you're saying, and in a perfect world, I think they did that with Force Awakens.
To somewhere like throw $1 billion at Steven Spielberg. Something like that just like gets everybody like back on board for Star Wars. Like, cool. That's
totally.
I don't know if they were going to do something
Spielberg,
like that.
I don't think there is that name, because here's the thing. Because I think they did that with Force Awakens. They did an incredible job from 2012 when they bought the franchise to 2015 when Force Awakens comes out. And by the way, it was the biggest movie of all time. We've just decided it sucks now somehow. Whatever. They did a great job for those 3 years of building hype, of casting great actors, of getting sort of the blessing of the older guard, of all of these things. They did a fantastic job. Like, the Comic-Cons were great. I vividly remember when they brought BB-8 out and then we're like, hey, by the way, it's a real droid. Like, it was so cool. J.J. Abrams said all the right things, did all the right things, whether you like the movie or you don't, whatever. I'm just talking about the PR lead up to it.
Yeah.
It was a smashing success for 3 years. So much has changed in the 10 years since that movie came out globally. I don't know that you can win anymore. I would study what James Gunn is doing with DC stuff, at least from a PR standpoint. Which, by the way, like, they announced 1 billion projects yesterday, and I'm just like, are we sure? Like,
I'm getting cold feet on Superman at being good.
Maybe that trailer rules. I really want Superman to be good, and I didn't know I cared about that until this year. And that's kudos to James Gunn, because he got that out of me. I hope they can find a way to make good movies. Number one, that's what I want. Number one, make good movies that are cohesive and have some connective fiber to them, and that work. But I would just assume them say, if you don't like Last Jedi because there's an Asian woman in the cast, we don't want you to come to our movie anymore. Like, we don't give a crap anymore. And to try to make good movies, good TV shows without worrying about what the fan backlash is going to be. Because the truth is, this fan base sucks butts. And it's just, you're going to constantly be trying to rewrite your movie, rewrite your TV show. If you're trying to appeal to this group of people, I just think you kind of at a certain point have to put your stuff out, put your movie, your TV shows out there. And if some people don't like it, then sucks to suck. If the movie's good, then that's the thing. It's easy for me to say because I'm not the one putting $1 billion on the line, but I don't think you can make this fan base happy.
It might be my number one type choice for somebody who's trending up that I would think have a good approach to this. David Lowery.
Be interesting. I have no idea what his Star Wars vibe is. I mean, I know he did Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew.
Does he? Yeah, cool. I love David Lowery. I'm in on that. I don't know if David
somebody
Lowery
like
gets,
that who's still got a lot of good years of film decision making left. That doesn't feel like they're past their prime again.
But for real, think like Dave Filoni is like the biggest Star Wars nerd in the world, and even still, there's a half of the online fan base that's like, they're sending him death threats right now for some random thing that happened in an episode of Skeleton Crew or whatever. And you're just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to handle this and deal with it.
Yeah, that's why I mean,
Spielberg would be awesome. It'd be really cool to see Spielberg.
That's what makes me think,
he won't do it because of Lucas,
perspective. That's why I mentioned Spielberg, because
like
you can't count anything out from just we need to make people happy type of a move. Yeah. Whereas you're the quote unquote head of Lucasfilm, but Dave Filoni is going to do all the day to day. That kind of thing could be worked out. Who knows?
That'd be cool. I just don't think Spielberg will ever do it as long as Lucas is. Like if they want to do that, if they want to get Spielberg, they got to go convince George Lucas to fake his death so that Spielberg
I think George Lucas has been trying to get Steven Spielberg involved in this forever, and he's just been like, no, you're good, George, go for it. I think it's been one of those where he doesn't want to get involved in the fandom of it.
I think he's too loyal to his friend to step in and do that. That would give me jazz.
George might try to convince him. I mean, that'd
be cool.
George would probably feel better about having somebody he trusts involved.
Right. Let's have Scorsese direct one too. Let's get I was gonna say Francis Ford Coppola, but I don't want that anymore after Megalopolis. But no, Spielberg would be cool. I think your job should be, if you can find somebody who will get some of the fan base excited about it, that's cool. But the number one job should be making good movies that are connective, and people will come around if you do that. And if they don't, then they can go to 4chan or whatever. Is 4chan still exist? I don't know. Whatever. I just don't. I don't think you can please this segment, unfortunately.
Well, let's move on to another franchise. Big news, which is Bond. The Broccoli team is stepping away from being the long-time producers of Bond and decision makers. They're still going to have some say, but it's pretty much going to be, or ownership, I should say.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much going to be Amazon Studios, MGM side of things, because they do own MGM, that will be producing, making new Bond movies. A lot of emotions here. I know we all like Bond. So I'll throw it to you, Richard. What was your reaction?
As a fan of those films, it is cool that this was like a family-owned enterprise, one of the last big properties not owned by some monolithic corporation, either tech company or huge studio or whatever. It was still had, financial interest from MGM, and thus Amazon after that acquisition was still controlled by this family. I think that's in a vacuum cool. The Broccoli's were extremely possessive of the James Bond franchise and only wanted to be in films. And remember there, all the kind of controversies about meticulously choosing who the Bond was and how they dress and all the different things. And I think that's great. Despite though all that meticulousness, only like 1 out of 4 Bond movies is really good during all this. So it's not, so I wasn't.
But they made money.
They did make money, sure, of course, but Minions makes money. Yeah. So it's like, despite all of that, they still, I don't think were that successful in producing these, as limited and nuanced and perfect as they try to make it. wasn't a lot of times. Like they got it right several times. Casino Royale rules, Skyfall rules. A bunch of these Bond movies are great. A lot of bad ones too. And a lot of them are sloppy and could be cool, but just aren't, like, I would say, actually not very well produced. You know, the script's not ready and all, you know, there's director conflicts and all these things. So wasn't super bummed to see them go, you know, with their 25% hit rate. I don't love who now is in control with Amazon MGM. The broccoli line always was like, don't let temporary people make permanent decisions with all the different studio execs they always would have to deal with. Well, now the temporary people are in charge and maybe they'll be great, but I could see, you know, like a lot of bad reality shows on Amazon based around Bond, or TV shows, or like we were joking in the chat, like instead of Q or whatever, he's just really good at same day prime when he's Alexa, in a pinch. Yeah. He's got Alexa on everything. Every cool article of clothing or car he has, a QR code pops up for you to order said that. Like, it could go badly very easily. We'll see. I mean, like I said earlier, we'll see who they hire to oversee it. If they hire someone to oversee it, it's a lot riding on that first film. I think even they would admit they've got to get it right out of the gate. If it sucks, which a lot of Bond movies sucks, that really wouldn't be that different than the last 40 years. But if this one misses, is a lot at stake, right? And they bought MGM basically for Bond, and then just didn't get to control what making it. So I'm sure there's a party at Amazon today, but I hate saying it. Like, it is a bummer that like this legacy production family is not going to be in control anymore. That's been in control forever, and that this huge monolithic company's now in charge. But like, if you go specifics, like, I don't think the Broccolis are that good at this, so I'm not super bummed they're gone, but I don't think Amazon's that good at this. And I am terrified that like Krasinski's Jack Ryan's going to show up in Bond, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So I net out nervous, but we'll see.
Yeah. Ryan.
I echo everything that Richard just said. I like the Bond movies. I will openly be like, Bond movies are not one of my top level franchises. I saw the news and I was like, oh, cool. Because I think the Broccolis are kind of annoying. And so, and then it was whatever day this broke, it was a pretty busy work day. I hadn't really checked in. I saw this stuff and then I went back and looked at the Discord, you know, like 4 or 5 hours later. And there was a lot of outrage. And I hadn't really thought about like, oh yeah, people are going to be mad about this. And you know, and so probably rightly so in some ways. I mean, Jeff Bezos can kick rocks. I don't really want him deciding, like asking Twitter who they should cast as the next Bond and stuff. I'm not sure that's great. But I think you're exactly right, Richard. It's like all of this meticulous craft to pick the right guy and get the right suits and tuxes and the cars and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I mean, every other one of these kind of is blah. I mean, it's fine, I guess. And
they alternate between being Thrills and Heineken ads, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't necessarily want. I don't need a Bond movie every other year. I don't really necessarily want that. And I mean, you know, we just talked about it with Star Wars. That's where you do start to water down your product when you're constantly gonna be pumping out more movies, more TV shows, blah blah, spinoffs, all this kind of stuff. I don't want that, but I definitely understand. Like, if you like these movies, you probably want more than one every 6 years or whatever, and then hope that one's good. I think they should bring back James Bond Jr. number 1. That would be great. I'd be really all aboard for that. But no, like, I understand the trepidation and the fear with all this, because billionaires ruin everything. I'm about to watch my favorite basketball player play for a different team because billionaires ruin that for me. So, you know, I understand. I would like to see them mess it up before we decide that they're going to mess it up. Does that make sense? Can we do that? Can we see if they botch the casting and make James Bond drive a Toyota Tundra, because that's what put forward the most money into Jeff Bezos' pocket before we decide that everything they're going to do is bad and wrong. That's all. Let's try that.
Yeah, I think a lot hinges on who they cast as James Bond. My biggest fear is that they do what they've done for everything in their business, which is let the algorithm decide. You know,
Sure.
who's good, which star is going to have a good click-through rate. Things like that, they're going to have to consider. High searchability on our platform, things like that.
Right.
That's
Did y'all see
sad.
that Maya Hawke interview talking about Instagram followers?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
That
totally
was-
understand
oof.
it. I mean, it's
Woof, man.
the creative space now. If you don't have, you know, however many tens of thousands of followers, like you won't even get a consideration. Like for like this is sometimes it's just baseline jobs in the industry, not even like roles in movies, things like that. It's crazy. That's where it's honestly where we are in movie making nowadays. The standards have changed. The way movies are made have changed. I think big picture, they want Amazon Prime to be known for James Bond movies on the digital platform side. When it comes to great movie making, these will be in theaters, I'm sure. But the home of James Bond filmmaking from now on is going to be Amazon. Yeah, if they apply the Amazon logic, we might not get a great choice as an actor for Bond, but we're just going to get a name that most people will know and will look great on a poster. I mean, that poster is going to look like Bond. I guarantee you that. So that's what makes me hesitate for that they're just going to say, all right, James Bond Jr. Everyone's like, what? James Bond's a kid now? Like, you know, like
Tom Holland.
I think they're going to play it safe from a casting perspective. Probably this first go around, this first maybe how many movies. So I've got a list here of actors I'd like to see be Bond.
Real fast, can I just add one thing real fast? That's the part that I'm least worried about with this is they're going to pick somebody who's probably, I would assume they're going to pick somebody who's relatively generic, but there are so many like B+ at worst generic choices for James Bond right now. Like all the names you're gonna, or let me rephrase, all the names that are on the odds boards and stuff, you're just like, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll look good in a suit and a tux. It'll be fine. It's the other stuff
There's odds
that
boards?
will.
Oh, I need to look this.
Oh yeah. There's a. I'll send you a link here in a second.
Yeah.
But like there are going to be names that I'm going to like better than others, and same for you guys. You know, we may disagree on who we think should be the next James Bond, and we're gonna talk about it here. But like, it's very likely that person is going to be a solid actor who looks great and has the right accent and all that kind of stuff. And it's all the other parts of the Bond movie and the Bond experience that I think has, at least for me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're gonna just completely botch the casting and pick the most British teeth looking dude ever. But I don't think that is going to be the thing that we need to worry about necessarily.
Oh, interesting.
Personally,
so if they has,
I mean, it's the thing we should be the most interested in.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. I just mean they're highly unlikely. I was trying to think of a good guy to throw in there, but like they're not casting Peter Crouch as James Bond. You know,
I don't know. I think they could miss.
There's a joke.
I
from
really
Richard,
do
but
think they
It'll
could
be
miss.
Scorsese.
As just who they cast in general for me personally, but one name comes to mind that I'll text you guys. But
Okay.
Yeah. So here's who's on my list, and you can chime in with yours if they're not listed here. But I guess from least favorable to who I'd want the most at the end. Alexander Skarsgård, is he on the odds board?
I'm not seeing him.
I think they got to be UK. I don't think they can come out and go outside of UK.
Has to be.
yeah.
You think it has to be full British?
There are some American names.
It
on
could.
this board.
I mean, like Brosnan was Irish, but from
Right, and there's-
the Isles, you got to be from that said islands. I would say.
Okay.
I think like I'm looking at this list and there's a ton of people on this market, but I think anybody who's not British, Irish, maybe Scottish, from the Isles, like you said, I think they're probably off the list.
Interesting.
Especially first time out. Like you could maybe you get three. Let's say you do 3 movies with Idris Elba, the People's Choice on all this, and then you want to really spice things up and cast a dirty American as James Bond, the next time out, then maybe you can do that. But first time out, if you don't cast a Brit, they are going to lose their minds,
Okay. I do have all mine are British, I think.
Mine's just Tom Hardy 6 times are my pick.
And James Bond. Next on my list, I actually have come back around on this from where we were 365 days ago. I think with the right director, Cavill could still be a pretty good Bond.
Okay. Yeah. He's pretty high on the odds boards. Yeah.
Daniel Kaluuya. Like to see him.
Yeah. I'd be in on that.
It'd be really good. Colin Farrell? Too old?
I don't see him on any of the boards. I love Colin Farrell, one of my favorite actors ever. I don't know, Richard, do you see him as Bond?
No, I think he's too old. Yeah, I think Kent's right. I think he's too old at this point. And
I also don't think he would do it. I don't think he would sign on for a 3-movie deal.
Yeah, I do see the list here. They have a lot of like up and coming name type guys. Netflix stars and things like that on this list. The few that I like that I do want to mention after my list. Next, I guess this kind of counts as British in some capacity. Michael Fassbender. He's German-esque, but from the UK for the most part. I think so. Yeah. What do you think about Fassbender as Bond?
I think too known. I mean, granted, it's different people choosing, and Amazon might want a flashier sale, but I think those are too big of stars. To go with the Bond motif, it's always not necessarily an unknown, but a lot of times someone's first leading role in a film. I think they'll continue that tradition because also, like a tech company running the algo, I don't know if the star matters as much as the James Bond of it all, and not that they'll be cost cutting, but they'll want value for their investment and a lot of upside. So I think something like Fassbender also takes away a bit, or Colin Farrell, two good Irishmen, but which they've done once with Brosnan, but I think that makes it become the new Michael Fassbender James Bond movie and not the new Amazon James Bond movie. And I think that defeats the purpose of what they want.
True. Yeah. Good point. I'd like to see him as the villain though. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah. That would be cool.
That'd be right. Yeah.
My number one, who I'd like to see, is not even listed on the odds board, which is a shame. It's a daggum shame. We need to write in. Harry Styles is on this board, and this guy's not. This is a disgrace. Mm-hmm. Matthew freaking Reese. Let's go.
Oh, man. Now we're talking. Yeah. Gotta be. I think he becomes a very serious Bond, which I'm in on. I freaking love Matthew Reese so much. That'd be great. Takes his boat to the set every day. It's just, what a time, man.
Here's how they do the long play on this. Get the exclusive rights to the Americans. Then cast Matthew Reese. People like, oh, who's the new Bond? Matthew Reese from the Americans. Oh, I've never seen that. I can check that out. And then everybody flocks to watch the Americans to see the new Bond. And they get all that algo money, I
like it.
So that's who I'd like to see. Some of the names on the odds board here that are probably worth mentioning. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Craven that Hunter.
Suit, but I'm okay. Like I've seen Craven the Hunter, so
not in. Oh no, Aaron Taylor.
I think we agreed, Kent. We're fine with him in the ensemble, leading the movies.
I'm fine with him in like indie dramas, but I don't need him leading my franchise films.
I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
Not a big fan. Yeah.
He was fine in Nosferatu. You didn't see that, Brian, but
I didn't. Yeah, the farts kept me away.
He needs to do stuff like that, but. This name was honestly one of my honorable mentions, Harris Dickinson.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of names on this list that are like uber British. And I'm like, who is that again? And then I go looking, like, inevitably it's like, oh, he's on Bridgerton or one of those. I'm like, yeah, okay, I didn't watch that. But I vaguely recognize a lot of them. I will be honest, I'm like, I don't really know anything about them.
I saw him in Baby Girl this last year.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people like Reggie Jean Page, the Bridgerton guy.
That feels like
everything I've
if
seen
this
him in
was
is
2,
he's not
3 years
good,
ago,
so-
he would have been the person
Yeah.
cast, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like his star faded so
Right.
quickly.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
that
Everything
was-
I've seen him in, he's been pretty meh.
That was like a Chevy Chase SNL move. He was like, the minute someone started winking at him, he was out.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
like, might want to ride that one out 2 or 3 more years. That show's huge. And
Right.
unless they're offering, if you can go be James Bond, go do that. But don't.
If you're gonna be the 7th lead in the Dungeons and Dragons movie,
then maybe stay on the
Bridgerton.
biggest show on Netflix. Yeah, I would advise you to do that. Yeah.
Some other names I'll mention here, just because it's likely one of these will be probably cast. One of these 20 or whatever. Theo James, Cavill, who we
I
mentioned.
like Theo James.
Yeah.
I like Theo James. Like Theo James, I'll tell you. Maybe I've said this on the air. I'd only seen him in with his American accent,
Yeah.
White Lotus, and things like that. And I was like, this guy sucks. And then I watched The Gentleman, and I was like, oh, okay, I totally get it.
Yeah, he'd be my pick,
He's
I
got
think.
it. Like, yeah,
I think he's my
more
pick.
comfortable in this, and he's very good in that. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, that's who I would pick. I think.
Plop is in here. Jake Lacey. No, just kidding. Just thought of him from White Lotus. I just love Plop.
What
Cavill.
about Steve Zahn? What are we doing?
Yeah. And now we're talking. That's my James Bond. So it's if Kent Garrison is in charge instead of
Right.
the Broccoli's. Yeah, that's who it's going to be. Steve Zahn, and the villain is going to be MacGruber. He's going to be a villain this time.
That's who I actually want as Bond.
Here's a name, Richard Madden.
I like that one.
That's a good one.
I like that one. He's I think he can. He'll look good in the suit. He'll carry. He's good. He's a good actor.
No, another Game of Thrones actor, Nikolai Coster-Waldau. Cillian Murphy would be interesting.
There's no way.
No way he
plays
does it, though,
O'Brien.
right?
Yeah, no way. Unless they're gonna really change that character. I don't think so. I don't think he plays James Bond.
Jack O'Connell, Will Poulter, Tom Hardy, the most inaudible Bond of all time.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Idris
Tom
Elba's
Hiddleston
name's
though.
going to be on
Tom
here.
Hiddleston.
Tom
I'm
Hiddleston.
in.
Okay,
I'll be in on that. Yeah.
maybe. Idris Elba's name.
Only
is always
Night Manager
interesting, but
Hiddleston, though. None of the other Hiddlestons. Only if he harnesses. Yeah.
Yeah.
here's one for you. Tom Holland.
No. Can't, James Bond Jr. maybe.
Oh.
Not
Too young.
he's too little.
Yeah, he's
Just
too
a little
little.
guy.
Robert Pattinson.
No.
He can't be Batman and Bond.
Batman. Yeah. Dev Patel. I'm in. I like that. Be all right with that.
Yeah.
Kit Harington's on here. Taron
No, thank
Egerton. Mahershala.
Chris Jericho.
John Boyega. Oscar Isaac. Like I said, Harry Styles' name is actually on here.
Yeah.
Like,
So
ahead
is
of,
Jonathan Majors, by the way, though. So
Jude
Yeah.
Law.
Yeah. I think Johnny Flynn, former.
Here's my favorite one. James Corden. It's actually on here. I'm betting it right now.
Man. They're just taking money from people. Paul Bettany.
Jude Law was actually a name I thought of, but I thought he was too old.
Yeah, he's too old.
But that would be,
He's too old.
he'd be a good Bond.
I think I would be okay with old Bond if it's Idris. It's just been out there for so long. I'm like, all right, listen, we're gonna crank out 3 movies in 6 years, and then we're gonna retire you. I think people would enjoy that. We'll be all right with that.
Yeah, I think they need to establish that James Bond /007 is not who this person is. It's merely the alias of whoever is in that role. So they can easily just move on to somebody else if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, right.
I think they're going to write themselves into a corner very quickly if they try to do some, recasting without any kind of explanation type stuff.
Eugene Levy, maybe.
Here's a good name, Chiwetel.
I think this is what I mean. I understand the intrigue and the interest. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I just think there's 50 good choices, or 50 choices that are fine, if nothing else. It's just
Yeah, that's where I am.
It's the rest of it
there's
that you
like
have to
30.
preserve.
I'd be like, okay, cool. With
that sounds fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, before we hit weekly recommends for this week, Brian has an update on the movie draft. The final update before we do our next movie draft here in a couple weeks. How did the things end up from 2024, Brian?
Here's where we ended up, Kent. it's an interesting year. It was an interesting year. These are the top, I'll say, these are the top 5 grossing movies. All right. Inside Out 2 is number 1. I had that. Deadpool and Wolverine was number 2. Richard had that. Wicked was number 3. I had that. Moana 2 was number 4. Kent, you had that. So we're kind of spread out a little bit at this point. And then I believe next up would be Despicable Me 4, which was me. And then Kent had Sonic 3 and Beetlejuice, which were the next 2. So here's what we've got is this. I'll give you my scores were, I had Despicable Me 4, Twisters, Inside Out 2, Mufasa, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, Wicked, Alien Romulus, Smile 2, The Wild Robot, Trap, Transformers 1, Nosferatu. I come out ahead at 3,458 total points over the course of this thing. Richard's team has the number 2 highest grossing film, Deadpool and Wolverine, but then doesn't have another movie on the board until Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is down near like the 10-12 range. All right. So Richard goes with Deadpool, Wolverine, Furiosa, The Fall Guy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, A Quiet Place Day 1, If, Lord of the Rings, whatever that Rohirrim movie, Kraven the Hunter, Saw, which didn't come out, Borderlands, Harold and the Purple Crayon, and The Bike Rider. I'll give you your total here in a second. Kent doesn't have a top flight, but did have the
Joker
number
2
4
is top flight.
Yeah, you had the number 4 movie, and then like the number 5 and 6, I think, or 6 and 7 movie, and a couple of others that were hits. Unfortunately, you also took Joker 2 with the first pick, and that ended up being worth 56 total points. So your total here your roster is Joker 2, Moana 2, Sonic 3, Garfield, Venom 3, Beetlejuice, Gladiator 2, Fly Me to the Moon, The Strangers, Horizon Part 1, Horizon Part 2, and Terrifier 3. Kent, your total points at the end of all of this ends up being very close, 1,596 points. Richard, do you think you're higher or lower than 1,596 points?
I think I'm lower.
Oh, he's higher for sure.
Just squeaking out a second place win is Richard Barnett's 1,630.
The streak continues. I've never lost, baby.
Gets out of this by just under 40 points, or just
Thank
over
you,
40
Joker.
points.
Thank you, Todd Phillips. Big shouts to my Warden Savior Lady.
The writing
Gaga.
was on the
Thank
wall
you
as
all.
soon as Wolverine made $1 billion. There was no way out. Anything could.
The rest
happen.
of Richard's movies
I sucked.
underperformed.
No, I mean,
but
when a movie makes
Deadpool
that
made a
much,
big difference.
I've done this. Like I said,
You had a bad draft. I mean, I had a bad draft. You just. That's
I
what
need to
got
stop doing bits as picks. Maybe that's bitten me in like
would be
every
better.
fantasy draft I've done. Like I get to pick 8, and I'm like, time to do bits, and it ends up killing me.
Always comes back to
I
bite
picked
you.
Tupac
So,
in the SNL draft recently,
Yeah,
and that's not
yeah.
gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen, guys. And I'm not feeling good about it.
So this wraps up our 2025 movie draft, 2024, movie draft. We'll do a 2025 probably before May, I would say.
Here's
April, kind of look and see. If you don't know what this is, we draft and then we keep track throughout the course of the year. And the winner, the only thing the winner gets is the right to choose a movie that the loser has to watch and do a solo podcast on. And Kent just dropped The Book of Henry in our VIP feed, or did you put it on the main
It's
feed?
on Patreon. You got to download it. It's video. So
Okay.
yeah,
Sweet. So Kent did a
Make
video
him do Book of Henry again.
video review / commentary.
review on The Book of Henry is on our Patreon. So go to madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP. Sign up for the VIP feed, and it'll give you access to that Patreon where you can watch Kent slowly die as he watches and responds to The Book of Henry. One of the worst movies of. Speaking of the Star Wars stuff, that a movie that cost Colin Trevorrow the opportunity to direct a Star Wars movie, which is hilarious and fascinating.
It is. It's a fascinating movie. That's for sure. That's a word for it. One addendum I'd like to make or amendment to the rules and I don't think this would benefit me, but Joker 2 still being worth 54 points, something wrong there. Like, it should have been worth negative 500 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was such, it cost so much and was such a bomb in every aspect that it shouldn't even have been in the positive.
I do miss when we had, and maybe we can go back to this year, because it is starting to, for a long time, budget was part of the calculation of this. And we stopped doing it because budget figures stopped coming out reliably and timely. So we may be swinging back the other direction.
Do
on
we
this.
do
Maybe
something related to the critic score that takes points away or something? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we can.
That evens it out. I just feel like the fact that that movie it was in the green on the movie draft is like, maybe figure that out, because
maybe there's a bonus or a penalty or something based on your box office total in relation to your budget or something like that. But
okay,
we can figure it out.
We'll get NVIDIA on that quick, and we'll get that figured out for next time.
Good.
All right,
so,
good stuff.
If you're a VIP, you can start suggesting movies to me for Kent to have to review, and we'll do this again. We usually do the draft sometime in like between late March and early May. Just depends on what the calendar looks like. But we'll get it going here soon.
Awesome.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Good times. Let's move on and hit a quick weekly recommend, guys.
Weekly recommends.
What you got for us this week, Richard?
Yeah, I've got a book called The Siren's Call by Chris Hayes. Cool book, kind of pop, history, psychology, culture about, the attention crisis in the modern world. It's not as alarmist as a lot of these other books that like anyone that looks at their phone is doomed to lose 50 million IQ points. It's a much more realistic look on our relationship with technology and everything. It's really well researched and written. And I think I wish Chris Hayes wasn't as like, not that I disagree or agree with him on everything or much, but I wish he wasn't in politics, because I think he's a really I think he's someone that's really smart and interesting on a lot of different topics that would have a much larger mass appeal than being on one side of the aisle or the other, right? I think he's a really good writer and interesting thinker and all that different stuff. But hey, he probably makes a ton of money doing that, so good for him. Lets him do projects like this that aren't political. But I dug it. Thought it was a really cool book. Definitely a Brian book for sure. So I would audible that one. Yeah. Definitely go for it.
On my list. Yeah, it's great.
What you got, Bri?
I'm gonna recommend a show. I'm only 2 episodes in, and definitely has some fall apart possibilities. It's on Hulu. It's called Paradise. It's a Sterling K. Brown, James Marsden joint, and I'd seen like I hadn't even watched a trailer for it. I just kind of seen like an ad. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll check that out later. And a friend was like, hey, you have to see it. Go watch it, but don't watch the trailer. Don't know anything about it. Just go watch the show. And so Lindsay and we watched 2 episodes last night. It is like it's a political intrigue show mixed with like a science fiction. I don't even necessarily want to say a B story, but like a setting. So Sterling K. Brown is a Secret Service agent taking care of the president, James Marsden. And early in the first, it's not a spoiler. Within the first 10 minutes, he finds out that he walks in and discovers that the president has been murdered. And so he goes into the investigation, but there's like a sci-fi twist to it that is very interesting and adds a real element to it that again could fall apart when it's all said and done. But so far, I'm digging the concept and what they're doing with it. And Sterling K. Brown's great. So Paradise on Hulu.
Awesome. I'm going to recommend a show to Larry Sanders Show. I've been watching a bunch. It's greatness. Never
got,
Best.
got
feel
my
like a
Larry
lot of
Sanders.
people- it's still probably flown under the
player.
radar for a lot of people who like those kinds of shows. I try to recommend it to people who like Parks and Rec and The Office and 30 Rock and, you know, those like one camera comedies, Arrested Development, things like that. And I feel like a lot of those people still haven't seen this. So if you like those kinds of shows, Larry Sanders Show is greatest.
Nice. The best.
What were you going to say, Richard?
I'm looking at my nameplate right here that you got me. I have the Larry Sanders host like office desk plate.
Oh yeah. I want a coffee mug so bad. I wish they made them.
Same.
One with his picture on it. But yeah, greatness.
No, Fleming.
Gosh, the rewatch, like the casting on that show is unbelievable. It's just like every episode is like an A-list.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like watching Letterman or something because you have all these celebs on every. It felt like they. You probably know this, Richard. It felt like they booked it like a late night show.
Yeah,
like every
definitely.
week they just book 3 guests and do 5 minutes with each of them and maybe use it on the show or whatever. But like, gosh, Tambor and Rip Torn are just on absolute another level on that show. Like both of them are incredible. Rip Torn, especially. What a treasure.
Torn was unbelievable in that show. God.
Yeah.
That's one of the great characters.
One of the original Jack
Marty's
Donaghy.
all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for us for this movie news edition of the show. If you want more from us this week, though, make sure you become a VIP, and we got Memphis Belle talk for all the dads out there. So sign on up, links in the description, and help keep the show going. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time in the cinema. Goodbye.